Success in farming is all about precision and efficiency, ensuring every seed, every drop of water, every nutrient and treatment counts. Terraplex Ag is helping farmers all over Iowa and the Midwest do just that. With precision ag drone technology and support from Terraplex, you'll boost your productivity and make timely and informed decisions, all while reducing your costs and increasing your profit. It's time to revolutionize your farming. Harvest the benefits with Terraplex Ag. Visit TerraplexAg.com.
My name is Joseph Hurst. I live in Ankeny, Iowa, and I'm a part of the PMBA program. I currently work as the Director of Sales at Stony Creek Hotels in Johnston, Iowa, and I chose the Iowa State MBA program because it just made perfect sense. About 2 years ago, I started this wonderful program, and I couldn't imagine not having done it. What has helped the most balance work, life, school has been the people I'm in class with. It's great to go through questions, problems, study for tests, and it just makes the whole class so much easier. As a working professional thinking about doing an MBA program, I get night classes aren't everybody's dream. I get after a long day of work, you may not want to go do more, but it's worth it. You're going to learn a lot, not just from the professors in the program, but from the other students. They come from all walks of life. They are from different age groups. They're from different companies. They're from all kinds of different backgrounds. They've got all kinds of different stories. And after 2 years, I've made some of the best friends I've ever made, learned the most I've ever learned, and I can't imagine what we're going to do after we're done.
Hello, friends. Welcome to Williams and Blum here on Sunday. What day is it? It's August 11th. I'm all out of sorts. We are in the Wild Rose Casino Studios. We are presented, as always, by Mechdyne and the Mechdyne Corporation. You can check them out at mechdyne.com. And I know Blum was at their big company gathering. I hated to have missed it, but I was getting a lot of, I don't know if I want to say they were inebriated texts, but I felt like everybody at the Mechdyne social was pretty loose the other night.
The great thing is not only did Clover host the party for Mechdyne, he also got everybody a hotel room at the Embassy Suites right next door.
Oh, wow. Look at that guy.
That's the type of guy that he is. He's looking out for everybody so they can have a good time as well.
Pretty awesome. I'm not surprised. It's a great company, great people. I can't say enough about them. It killed me to miss it, to be honest.
Yeah, C-Dub, I'm like, I don't know. I kind of want to work for you now. Like it was everybody I met was great. Everybody I met was fantastic, just fantastic.
Well, there might be some job openings for you. We'll just see what the NCAA decides to do here. Keep it in your back pocket.
It's one of the reasons they went. No,
yeah,
it was great. It was an awesome time, and actually had a good chat with Jairo Brock, who was on the marketing team there, which we've mentioned a couple times.
I love Jairo, great kid. Really happy that worked out and that he landed in such a great spot. Really neat kid who, we'll talk about, maybe get Jairo on a podcast someday and talk about some things. But he's at Mechdyne now, doing great. Before we get going, Friday night we are in LeClaire for our annual event with Cody Road, the Cyclone Fanatic Roadshow / We Will Collective fundraiser, where I will make sure we are just hammering it out to send out all the tickets, information and stuff. You can taste and see the new bottle of Cyclone Fanatic Cody Road that Ryan Burchett has put together over there in LeClaire. Just a beautiful, beautiful scenic spot that he has over there. I actually had a Fanatic tweet at me this weekend. He was over in LeClaire and stopped by Mississippi River Distilling. But that is Friday night this year, and
tickets available still.
And then who are our special guests? I'm excited about these. This will be cool.
So it's a tough part of the year. Football is obviously busy.
Can't do football.
Men's and women's basketball are both on vacation. They give them a little time off. They're out of Camp Fenley and at Camp Altabers. A lot of them are at home. So, but we decided, okay, what do we got here? We went to Eastern Iowa, and we got Kelsey Jones, but also Ashley Jones.
And she's bringing Big Sister with her.
The Hall of Famer.
That makes me really happy. Yeah. I really like – I don't know Kelsey that well. I know Kelsey from when I was calling Ashley's games, and Kelsey would be like the little sister in the Jones crew. But I don't really know her very well. I'm excited to talk to Ashley about her WNBA career and all the great things she has going for her.
The great news for you is Kelsey's 10 times more talkative than Ashley.
Much easier interview, I've heard.
They're great.
Heard Noah and Jamie doing those interviews. She seems much more confident in front of the mic than Sis. Do you remember interviewing Ashley when she was a freshman?
Yes, she would rather be shooting jump shots. Yes, which is good.
She would have rather played defense.
Yeah, than talk to you or me. Maybe it was you and I. No, but it was it'll be a great night. And again, I appreciate the two Joneses for stepping up. It was kind of a tough deal with a lot of the people were out of town, so it'll be a great night. And honestly, guys, if you live over there, it is well worth it. It is the best night of the year, one of the best nights of the year for sure.
I always leave that party thinking that was my favorite night. That we do. We do a lot of events, and you enjoy them more than I do. Not that I don't enjoy them. I just you're really good in those settings. I always feel like I'm disappointing people. That's just how I always feel like with me in general. I always leave that LeClaire one thinking like, man, because those Eastern Iowa people are just so excited when we get there, and it's just an awesome. And Ryan's wife and the crew behind the bar, they've always got like a cool Cyclone cocktail drink that remember the one year it was like a black.
Yes.
Yeah, like they do really cool stuff. So we'll look forward to that.
And there may be I got a hotel, so there may be an after party too. We'll see. We'll see how long old Burchett wants to stay open.
I'm staying too. I got an Airbnb.
There you go.
ready to roll. Okay, real quick, I have to admit that I am totally out of it. I have not worked much in the last 7 days. Really not much in the last 12 days, but I did come back for 2 or 3 days last week. I've been in Georgia, Blum, where took the family to a Braves game.
There we go.
We went on a little racing tour that would not interest most people. We went and found the house from the show Ozark. Did you ever watch Ozark?
Oh, yeah, that's down in Georgia.
We found it. Drove right by it.
Seriously?
I took a picture of it. Yeah,
that's
send
awesome.
it to you. Went on a little exploration, and we got a new puppy. Yes, we are insane humans that drove to rural Georgia to get a puppy, and then drove all the way back. So I've put on over 3,000 miles in like 12 days. I'm just kind of fried. I don't know a lot of current event stuff right now, so we're going to keep it somewhat evergreen with the pod today, but glad to be back.
The good news is there really hasn't been much this week in Iowa State land. And in fact, there really hasn't been much at all other than football continues to have camp. Scrimmage went great on Saturday. The report I did get was that the offense is doing better than it has in previous years. In that, and again, you can always take these things a couple of different ways. Well, does that mean the defense isn't very good? I'm not too concerned about John Haycock's group here, specifically with the defensive line, but just that the offense is definitely a lot further ahead than this time a year ago. And that makes sense. I mean, just think about all the people that are back. You would hope they'd be further along. And that the kicker, from what I was told, is Conradi to lose at this point. He's been very impressive. So that's good. Good news.
Well, that's good. I hadn't heard that. I will have a full report on the scrimmage for our premium subscribers, by the way.
Yep.
By Monday at noon. Give me Monday till noon. But I know that I knew that was the plan for him to be the kicker, and
so far,
I guess that's good news. I don't think it probably would have been. I don't think it probably would have been good news if that was like a competition right now, or it is a competition. Don't get me wrong, but if that was like in question, because I do think that is probably overlooked by most fans. And what we're going to do in today's show is we're going to project point spreads. Now, Blum has a cheat sheet in front of him, and I haven't seen any of these. So I'm going to give you like my point spread projections. So I think what we're going to learn here, and again, I haven't done this yet. I'm going to do this on the fly, and then Blum's going to kind of grade the picks because he's got VSiN has some projections.
Yes.
Is that right?
It is.
Okay.
It is there. Yes. Every game.
But I'm guessing that we're going to have a lot of single-digit spreads here, would be my guess. And if that's the case, then you damn well better have a kicker who you can rely on. So, it's probably something, don't you think, that we haven't talked about enough in the 100%. Offseason?
I would guess if you asked 100 Cyclone fans who's the kicker this year, 10 would know. Nobody knows the kicker, which is And so the part here, it's Kyle's job right now. Jace Gilbert is still around. He started as a freshman 2 years ago. Didn't go great. Obviously, Contreras was the kicker last year. But as you've heard, I've heard that Conrarty was really challenging Contreras towards the end of the year and pushing him in practice to the point where they thought about putting him in at some point in November. Didn't, but huge leg, and it's been good so far. So, but I agree with you, C-Dub. That's one aspect. Both Conrarty and then Perkins. Perkins had a great year as a punter last year. Don't give that guy enough credit for what he did. Was one of the better punters, is on the Ray Guy Watch Award. Really good kid as well, using a lot of his NIL earnings to help with Count the Kicks, which is an awesome organization if you want to look it up. So neat kid, neat family. But again, special teams is a big deal, and it went under the radar because last year Iowa State special teams were a lot better, but special teams coordinator left. And so now it's back to have they even named a special teams coordinator? I don't think they really have.
No,
but the duties
Matt Campbell does a lot of that.
It's the special teams coordinator is pretty much Matt Campbell, and then with a big assist from Rob Grand, who really does most of the yeoman's work anyway. I think he's an analyst technically, but super sharp guy that will get increased workload this year too.
Yeah, and they won't make a big deal out of that because
they will not.
They're not trying to make people look bad Matt really was the key to that turnaround last year.
It didn't change. Let's just say the responsibilities changed almost zero from last year to this year. Even though Langs was the coordinator, by about game 2 or 3, he was
Matt was
not
calling the shots.
Was not the coordinator.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Well,
so yeah, you're right. To your point, special teams are huge. Kicking game is huge, and this little exercise will cement that fact. But I think it's pretty exciting too.
Okay, we'll get into that. I want to knock out a couple of great sponsors. We couldn't do any of this without our sponsors, also our subscribers, and remind you all to shop at Cyclone Fanatic shop as well. All that comes into you guys getting this free content that we produce for you here on the Cyclone Fanatic Podcast Network. Williams and Blum 2 times a week now. And we'll be beefing up now too, because I'm back from these trips and we're really in football mode now. Kelderman Manufacturing, Kelderman.com. That is spelled KELDERMAN.com. We'll be telling you about the down corn rails coming up for all you farmers out there with harvest, which is, I probably don't want to think about it yet, but I know if you're a farmer, you absolutely are. It's just around the corner. Terraplex Ag as well, another one of our great agriculture sponsors here on the Cyclone Fanatic Podcast Network. I also want to thank our friends at the Iowa State University Foundation, MoveWhatMatters.com. You saw a wonderful video ad from them if you watched it on YouTube before the show began. All the iterations of Psy over the years, that's really cool. I like that ad. Good job, Valerie and the team, for getting that over to us. And of course, you also saw one from our friends at the Ivy College of Business as well. All right, let's just get after it. Now, we do have spreads for the first 2 games.
They are in.
We know, and I can cheat on these.
Yes,
because I know them.
They are
North
out.
Dakota on August 31st. Bloom, that is a 2:30 kick on Fox Sports 1. Iowa State is a 28-point favorite in that game. What do we know about it? I haven't done a thing on North Dakota. What do you know about it? They're okay,
right?
Okay. Like
they're not.
It's not South Dakota State
or North Dakota State. No. I mean they're ranked 15th. So they are, I would say right at where UNI has been, honestly, probably a little bit behind where UNI has been the last couple of years.
Yeah, and you don't have that motivation factor either that you often get
for
from
sure. Now, it's a big game
Mark
for them.
Barley teams.
They play anytime you play a Big 12 team, they're going to be on it.
Oh, yeah.
I think the point spread here is pretty indicative of what the talent disparity probably is. I was, as first I saw this, that was out, and at 28, that's, for an Iowa State game, that's a lot. And I think UNI last year was 20. I think it ended at 20, and Iowa State ended up winning by 23. So that was actually pretty close. So I think 28, one of those games where, if you don't pay attention to it and you turn the ball over or something goes drastically wrong, it could be a game in the fourth quarter. But percentages say that you're the Big 12 team. You're better than these guys. This is not South Dakota State, and this should be something like 35-10. 42.
Yeah, this is a classic. Campbell just pours you to tears in the fourth quarter.
Yeah,
like,
the
reminds me of like the Akron game when they played here, the Monroe. Like some of those games that were just so boring. But not the Monroe game. They piled on in that one.
They kept going on those guys.
But and that's kind of what you want, like to be able to get out and just play guys. And then I'm not real into the don't show anything to Iowa like that.
They're going to do what they do regardless.
Yeah, and I used to think that way, and every coach I've ever talked to tells me that that's not much of a thing. But my guess would be that you just hope that you can get either J.J. Cole or whoever the backup quarterback is some reps in that. You want to get Dylan Lee in the game. Yep. You want to get those type of guys.
You need Nagoya getting some that's the great thing. The great thing here is I think I had some good conversations this week. It's like, what's the difference between this year's Cyclones and maybe the 2020, 2021 Cyclones? And kind of the answer I got was the ready-made talent was probably a little bit higher end on those teams in that you had a Breece Hall, you had a Brock Purdy, you had a Will McDonald, you had
three NFL caliber tight ends.
Right. So it's like you knew those guys were going to be great. It sounds like on this year's roster, you don't have those surefire first and second rounders necessarily. I think Jaden Higgins has high-end ability, could move himself into a second-round type. But I think the depth is a lot stronger, 1 to 3, first, second, third stringers. That's been the theme from camp is these guys are really close, which means you don't have a bunch of standouts that are just running away with it. So what does that mean in relation to this game? It means when you put your second team and your third team in, you've got good guys that the score could potentially get away, even if you're just trying to run the clock out. So
real quick, you mentioned Higgins, and he's great, and I mentioned him a couple weeks ago about how the numbers I thought he could put up this year. I've heard that Knoll has really stood out, and not that that's like a surprise because Jalen's been such a mainstay. Starting to think too, like I just wonder, attention-wise, like with Higgins, is this like a I think Curtis Jones may lead the team in scoring because the attention you got to give Momchilovich and Keyshawn. You know what I mean? Like, I just wonder if Knoll could be a guy, just purely numbers-wise. Like, he's going to be important to the team no matter what. Is he a numbers guy where you could see him producing at a higher level than we think because of the attention that Higgins and Bramer? Because when you watch the tape, my point is, I'm thinking of this like a defensive coordinator, right?
Yeah, who am I shutting down first?
Right, like who scares you the most? And it would probably be the 6'7" tight end paired with the guy who was putting receiver. Up video game numbers the second half of last year. I just wonder if this could be like this massive year for Jalen Knoll.
If somebody's had a great summer, it's him. Here's a little birdie, a little hot tip for you.
Yes.
They did a little combine action in late July. Like they do the combine drills.
Yeah, like a mock combine.
Jalen did a vertical of 43.5 inches.
Oh my God. Seriously?
You're talking about a elite athlete. And he's put on, he's up to 200 pounds. He looks different. I agree. I think 13's in for a monster year, and I'm excited for him. He's just a great dude, really good dude.
Hold on, I'm looking something up. I want to see combine last year.
Jalen Knoll at the combine is gonna raise some eyebrows because that guy is a freak athletically, and he hasn't got enough credit.
And he will go to that. Would have put if he really jumped to 43, and I have no reason to say that you're bullshitting me. He would have been the number one in the combine last year.
There you go.
The number one was 42.5. Malik Washington from Virginia and Jalen Coker from Holy Cross jumped 42.5 last year.
Is that just receivers or is that all?
That's just wide receivers.
Okay, yeah.
Let me look at all real quick. Brent, that would have been in the entire combine. He would have been number one.
He's a freak.
There were 4 guys in the entire combine Elijah Jones, cornerback from Boston College, and Daquan Hardy, cornerback from Penn State. There were four guys who had 42.5.
Jalen Knoll, breakout season upcoming.
There you go. Heard it.
And actually, I think if we're playing the bye game, Daniel Jackson is at third wheel is going to get a lot of open looks, because who do you not cover with your?
Well, that's what I'm saying. Yeah. Like, and I don't know. I think that Mauser. I just don't think that this will be like a Tom Manning, like we're just packing guys in. I would of offense with what they have, like, and it just talking to Mauser, and again, like they're going to change things, right? Like it's matchup driven, all that stuff. This guy's never called a play before, so I'm not like I'm kind of taking a wait and see approach, but I think his mindset is I don't think he'll be, shy.
Yes, I totally agree. Totally agree.
It may be the other way around where the head coach has got to say, hey, run the damn ball, and then I get the shit all over Campbell in the post game because they're running too much.
I feel the exact same way. I think it's going to be Campbell having to tell Mouse to like, hey, let's do a little power zone first before we get going.
I sent Mouse the podcast I did with Hal Mummy last summer. I was like, you need to study this.
I just hope I hope he does well. I think
I do too. I think
he's a star in the making, but it's a big, he's 32.
This is a big job for a guy that age.
It's a big job. And I think that's, things that haven't been maybe talked about enough that's an adjustment. Now, the good news is he's been around for a while, so it's not like he's brand new. At the same time, that is a question mark. I would say the kicking game and then the offensive coordinator would be question marks for me that still exist, and you won't really know until game 1.
Game 2 at Iowa, really don't need to analyze this too much. Iowa State, 2.5-point underdog. However, I told you about beers with the odds maker, didn't I?
Yes.
Yeah, and I'll recap it for the audience who may not have heard this story. I've told it on Two Guys as well. I was just with one odds maker. Actually, I was with like 4 of them. We were sitting at Circa. This was during one night after Big 12 Media Days. A bunch of media guys got together. And one guy had Iowa State as a 5-point favorite in that game in Iowa City.
That's a lot.
But that's one guy. Like, that's not the consensus.
I know.
My point is they're a 2.5-point dog. The majority of the odds makers I was with had Iowa State favored in that game. But they also understood why, like, if they were actually setting a book, they would put it where it is because you're trying to get action, right? Like, that's what you're trying to do there. You're not saying what you actually think is going to happen. So this game is really a coin toss either way. And, I have no idea. Like, you really, at the end of the day, what you're going to get out of Iowa City. Like, they're going to be a lead on defense. I do wonder their special teams, though, and those hidden yardage, I would have a real question mark if I'm an Iowa fan. You lose one of the best punters in the history of the sport. You lose an elite return man in Cooper DeJean.
Yeah,
they've got they seem to plug guys in, but like, man, like, I don't know about their offense. It has to be better. It can't be worse.
It is not impossible to be worse. It is impossible.
Correct. So they'll have a net gain there.
100%.
But like, and I think they'll be really elite on defense.
Linebackers are really good.
Yeah. But they can't. My point is, like, they better not slip much because I just don't know how good their offense can actually be. We'll see. But I think that line's about right, and I think that thing will kick off, and that line will move towards Iowa State a little bit. I think there'll be sharp money on Iowa State. That thing will be closer to a pick 'em at kickoff, depending on what happens in week 1.
Well, and so everyone's like, well, who does Iowa play week 1? It's Illinois State, which the point spread will be pretty similar to North Dakota.
It shouldn't move power ratings at all either way.
Not going to move much. Anybody who has confidence in this game as an Iowa State fan is how can you?
Nope.
So it's just like, you're right. We've seen this game. The coordinator change is interesting for both. Maybe each holds something I know we don't like that necessarily, but I do think I could see both of these coordinators trying to hit a big play early and doing something. But yeah, this game's over-unders right at 35, 38. Like it's going to be the same type of game, and we'll see who grinds it out. It's terrifying, but I'm excited for it. It's just one of those games where it's national TV. Everyone's going to be watching. The good news is you do get a week off after that because it's going to be stressful.
No doubt.
So September 14th happens to be my birthday. Iowa State gets the week off.
Let's go, baby.
So what are we gonna do? Probably watch football.
You're turning 40. We got to do something.
I don't want to do anything. I kind of want to just watch football.
I actually understand.
Yeah.
Like I've been gone for the better most of 2 weeks now. Like, I don't want to leave my house for 2 years.
Yeah, it's coming that mode.
I'm serious. I really don't. I don't want to leave my house. Like, I am over it.
I felt so old. I was so excited this week to stay home and mow my yard.
Yeah. I get it, man.
I really wanted to mow my yard. So, okay. Next week. So I think it's the bye week. By the way, there's some unbelievably great games on the 14th.
Oh, good.
Like, I got way too amped up going through the schedule because some of the premier lines are out at some of the bigger sites. And so you're just going down. It's like, holy crap, that game, that game, that game. And then the neat part for me, which we haven't really it hasn't hit us over the head yet. It's going to at some point. The playoff changes the entire paradigm of the regular season. I think for the better. Because you're going to be fighting for seeding, you're fighting for home field, you're fighting for that last bid, you're fighting to get in the championship game, which means you might be able to make the playoff. It adds so much more than even a year ago, and I think you're going to be mid-October going, how does this impact the playoff race, which is going to be super cool. Does that impact the bowl games? Yes. It's not going to be the same for bowl games, but I think as a whole, this has the potential to be an electric college football season with all the changes.
Oh, okay. Arkansas State is next, and I have to pick a point spread for Arkansas State, who I know virtually nothing about.
Sunbelt
team. So Iowa State will be a smaller favorite than they were against North Dakota, but not much. Give me Iowa State by 20.5.
That's pretty good. 21.5 is where it's at right now.
Winner.
So Arkansas State did make a bowl game last year. Return its quarterback, who's only a sophomore. Do you know who the Arkansas State head coach is? Anybody? How about Butch Jones, the old Tennessee Volunteer head coach? Yeah.
How long has he been there?
Since 2020, and he's only 56. Like, he's probably trying to coach his way back up into the SEC. So they are picked seed up 7th in the Sun Belt. I'm with you. I think that this should be one of those games where it's comfortable enough.
You know, I'm glad they get the bye after Iowa.
I'm okay with that.
Because it's such an emotionally charged week.
It is. Every time. It doesn't matter
and
how
the players they can say like they don't pay attention and stuff, but they do. Like, it's not like they're not necessarily obsessing over it, but they hear it. Like, people talk to you on campus, like, and Iowa's probably, I would say now, the most physical team. Them and Utah and Kansas State probably
those three. Yep,
would be the one. So it's like to get that rest, and I don't hate it. I don't hate that bye location. You can work on some things. You come back out, and you kind of have a layup game where you can execute a little bit before you start Big 12 play. I kind of like the way this sets up.
I think the spot's good, and you could have a sleeper start like you did against Akron.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, that's very, very
happens all the time in that game.
But I think this is a game where Arkansas State is a nice football program, but it's not a game that they should be walking into Ames and being a 4-quarter game. Interestingly, C-Dub, the week before, Arkansas State has to go to Ann Arbor to play Michigan.
Oh, great.
So they could
play Iowa State. If you can get to 20,
they could be pretty beat up. And
if that thing goes under 3 touchdowns, just hammer Iowa State right now.
You just wonder how much.
Great pull, Blum.
Yeah, thank you.
Great pull on that.
Trying to help everybody's.
That's good stuff right there. That's professional stuff right there.
putting the kids to bed, you find some things. Okay, next week, first Big 12 game on the road at Houston.
So Willie Fritz, they're not going to be very good. I'm still glad Iowa State play. If you have to play in Houston, you'd rather do it in September than November.
I think they will get better as the year goes on.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how good they get, but Iowa State in this game on the road is a 9.5 point favorite.
Pretty darn good. C-Dub 9. It's listed at 9 right now. Iowa State the favorite. Houston, odd schedule. UNLV at home. It's gonna be close to a pick'em game. UNLV's not the same UNLV that Iowa State saw a couple.
Yeah, they're better now.
And then Houston has to go on the 7th to Oklahoma. So that's not easy. And then they get Rice inner Houston Rice battle on the
which actually will be a tough game for them. Yeah. Do you have a point spread for that game? That can't be
6.
Okay, I was gonna say that because Rice isn't bad.
Rice isn't bad. And then Houston goes at Cincinnati on the 21st. So they do not have a bye week before Iowa State game.
Doesn't this game at Houston feel like the Cincinnati game last year?
It's got a similar setup. Yeah, and we'll see kind of how that Cincinnati-Houston game will be fascinating. I don't know what to make of either of those schools, but I think Iowa State, after getting a bye week and then Arkansas State, you should be fairly healthy rolling into Houston for a big conference opening game, and I'm excited to see what Iowa State rolls out there for that one.
I want to thank our buddy Chappie for sponsoring the program. Andrew Chaplin does real estate all across the great state of Iowa. Been a friend of mine, Blum's. Going back to college, I've known Chappie for that long. I was wearing my Scott Hall Razor Ramon shirt that Chappie got me down at the Lake of the Ozarks. Got a lot of nice compliments on that. That's the kind of guy you're getting with Chappie.
Chappie's sponsoring a hole for our women's basketball We Will golf outing.
He loves the women's basketball. He's a big supporter of them. He said season tickets forever.
Still some foursomes left, by the way. WeWillCollective.com.
When is that?
September 20th, I want to say. It's mid-September. But
if you need anything for that one, holler. I like to support them as much as possible. Are they best preseason team
since since 2001, probably. Honestly,
would it be better than the Jones senior year?
Yes, it's going to be better. I think ranked wise, I think that team started 9th though, so it's going to be right there. It'll be right there.
Yeah, but then Suarez goes down and it just changes everything. If she doesn't go down,
correct.
That season, the story is just totally different.
It is different. It's September 20th, which is a Friday, and again, all funds raised at that outing go directly to women's basketball. So if
let's get Cyclone Fanatic on board and do something for that. Like maybe a little online fundraiser for people.
We'll hook it up.
Huge.
We'll have our friends at Ames Lager Westo there as well.
Perfect.
It'll be Ames Lager for everybody if you're there. A lot of free Ames Lager, let me tell you that much.
Love that. Speaking of a guy who'll put down an Ames Lager or two with you is Colin Newell.
Yes, he will.
Having lunch with Colin coming up this week. Looking forward to that. Farm Bureau Financial Services saved me hundreds of dollars, close to $1,000 on all my stuff, and they did a great job. My basement is probably 80% put back together now from the big flood of 2024, and couldn't say enough good words about Colin and Farm Bureau, how they took care of us.
So one of Colin's old teammates made some news this week. This is about a Cyclone importance as really happened this week, which isn't much. Charlie Kohler said, "Hey Charlie, how'd you lose some weight?" And he's like, "I switched from Budweiser to Bud Light." And Charlie drinks. Apparently, you'll have to ask Newell this, but I think Charlie can take down a few beers.
Can imagine.
Yeah, good for you, Charlie. Breakout season for 88 coming.
Love that. Went to the light beers. That's good stuff. Did he say that to like a Baltimore beat writer?
No, he was in the media presser. Yeah. and then this is because classic Charlie. Charlie's he's extremely intelligent, clearly, and just a dry sense of humor. Well, then Bud Light tweeted at him we're going to send you some branded Baltimore Ravens cans. So look at Charlie Chuck Kohler getting some free beer out of the deal.
Of course, that doesn't surprise me. Okay, what's next? What's next for the Clones?
So, after the road trip to Houston, you go back home on October 5th to host the Baylor Bears.
Iowa State by 8.
This one surprised me a little bit. Iowa State by 12 here.
Wow.
Yes. So let's real quick on Baylor.
That's hefty respect for the Cyclones.
It is hefty respect, and also I think what you got some heat from the Baylor fans last
Oh
week,
my
by the
God,
way.
those people! Hey, what do you think about that? Being the NIL guy at Iowa State. So let me tell everybody, they did this deal with all their coaches. So Aranda makes the comment at Big 12 Media Days. He says they go, "How are you doing so well on the recruiting trail?" And Dave responds, and I like Dave Aranda, by the way. I've always said good things about him. He goes, "Well, we pay the players," and it was kind of like, I thought it was kind of clever, like just the way that he said it there in that scenario, because it felt very like natural. Like
Yeah.
I didn't. Well, then I think what happened is they got a little too big for their britches, and they're like, "Oh, look at all this press we got out of this." So they printed shirts that say "We pay players," and I did a commentary on my CW pod on Iowa Everywhere about how I think it's just kind of
You call it desperation mode.
yeah, it screams desperation to me, because everybody's paying the players. Like, if you have to like talk about it, like it feels really desperate to me. And I said, and I mean this, it has me having second thoughts about Baylor being a bounce back team to me, because it feels like a guy now with this campaign that they have it feels like a guy who's throwing everything out there so he doesn't get fired before he gets fired. And I don't know. Like, what did you think being the NIL guy at Iowa State?
Yeah, I knew a little bit why they did it, and so it kind of slanted my view a little bit. They had major NIL issues as of like 12 months ago, where they had like paychecks bouncing and things falling through the cracks, and a lot of unhappy athletes, from what it sounds like. Is because they either had too many NIL groups or it was confusing for everybody. Long story short, they had a big reorg for their entire operation. They made a big hire, and supposedly that's why they're trying to brand it now, like basically saying not just we pay players, but we have our stuff together finally after years of not.
But
I know
it seems really dumb to me though, because nobody knows that. That's such an inside baseball thing. Like, and their
Agreed.
NIL director tweeted at me.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and she was very nice. Like, she was not confrontational.
Yeah.
She thanked me for my and I responded to her, and I was like, "Thank you for that. I'm glad you told me that." But I go, I will tell you though, being like a regional media guy who covers this stuff, I have no idea. We don't know anything about that, and now like we're just hearing that your NIL's been trash. Like, I don't know. What does that say about your AD? Like,
It's fair.
Like, now it makes me think that it's even more of a dumpster fire potentially.
Yeah, now you hope you're not overpaying for players.
It seems like really dumb PR to me, I guess.
It's not. Listen, I've made plenty of mistakes in this space.
Well, everybody has. Like, nobody knows. Like,
I'm not sure I would have done that, but they are getting better players. Like that.
They're top 20 class right now. Like,
interestingly, on Baylor, non-conference schedule is this is the non-conference schedule. Okay, Tarleton State, whatever, they go to Utah in a non-conference game.
Mm-hmm,
that game will not count in the Big 12 standings.
Yep, that was a really good game last year too, when those two teams played.
And Utah will be That'll be interesting. Utah will probably we'll learn a little bit more about both there. Then they get Air Force at home. Interesting game. They go to Dion in Colorado. Who you see Dion got into with Keeler this weekend?
Yeah, it was awesome. Keeler just with one of the all-time great columns after that too. Really Did you read it?
I did, and I think Dion's going to start losing it here. If he this year doesn't, I think this is okay. Hot take on the August 11th. This is the last year in Dion and Boulder. We will not see Dion at Jack Trice Stadium. Either good or bad. It's either good or bad.
I'm thinking too, and I've never like just blown up a coach the way Keeler did there. It's because it's not even the same thing what I do. But like I've dealt with fans enough where when the team, you're kind of in a no-win spot, because when you're critical in the offseason or whatever, like the fans, everybody's really excited, right? Like that's just how it goes. But then when the team starts losing, then they're pissed at you anyways, because you're not being hard enough. Like, because the fans want it to be like on Twitter, like where everybody, you just
firing
like,
everybody.
Screw you! You all suck. Like, well, you can't like do that in a professional setting.
You
Like,
can't fire somebody in a press, right?
yeah, like so. But like what I could see happening, because Keeler's just getting annihilated by these Colorado fans. Well, if they're 4-8 again, right? Like,
it's gonna flip.
Yeah, and like, so then like all these fans are gonna, because then you really, and Deion, and this is Deion's problem, is it was way too much flash and not enough substance early. But that's why they hired him, right? Like, because they needed that to get people to pay attention to their football program. But if you start off, let's say they're 4-8, and he starts off 8-16 in 2 years, like those fans are going to be like, what the hell are we giving all of our money for? And like, you know, that's where you have a problem in your NIL space. Like there's got to be substance somewhere, because now everybody's like financially invested in this thing.
Yeah, I think
more so than you already were.
It's either way. If he has a good year and he goes 8-4, I think he's going to try and parlay that into something else, because I believe Shadour's done. So we'll see.
He's turning the media against him. Did you see what he did to the CBS TV worker? That's one of the stupidest things I've ever heard.
He was mad at national CBS, so he wouldn't talk to the local CBS person.
He was mad about a story that somebody wrote on CBSSports.com, where one of those, like, you know, it's whatever, it gets clicks, the like ranking the Big 12 head coaches.
Okay.
And whoever wrote this column had Deion 15th. And he was pissed about it, so he wouldn't talk to the local CBS affiliate.
Like the Channel 8, the KCCI report.
It's like if Scott Reister's there.
I'm not talking to you, Scott.
It's the most insane. Like, that guy, he doesn't even know the person that you're mad at. They don't even get a check from the same company.
It's not not going to.
Whoever owns that affiliate, it's like Hearst or somebody, or like Nexstar writes that guy a check, not Viacom CBS. Right. Like, what are we? So now he verbally attacked the Denver Post columnist and blackballed the local CBS station on Media Day.
When you haven't even lost a game yet.
Yeah, it's like, it's insane.
What are you doing, pal? So Iowa State, this was interesting to me now. So of Iowa State's first 5 games, C-Dub, favored by 9 or more in 4 of them, which is interesting.
Just because the September thing, right? I mean,
yeah, not obviously the Iowa game is a toss-up. Speaking of
I've learned enough from talking to players in that 2021 team that they really felt going into that UNI game that they weren't in very good shape. They sensed it.
Yeah.
From a strength and conditioning standpoint, that they just weren't. I would be surprised if. I think Iowa State starts off really strong this year.
Yeah,
I think that they know it too. With the end of that schedule, they know. I bet that they are emphasizing like hell. We have to get off to a strong start.
Well, and the great thing is, if you get off to a good start, you see everything in front of you at that point. You know, I think it just opens up the season. Now, you're right; it gets harder on the back end. But if you're in those games, like we talked about 20 minutes ago, the season gets really fun, because every week matters, not only in your game, but as a fan, you can watch all these other games and be like, all right, you know, if Penn State loses, maybe we're up to 12 or 11 or whatever it looks like. So it just makes for a fun season. I agree. I think Iowa State does start better than it has. Although I say that, somewhat of a bad rap. Iowa State started 3-0 in 2022 and finished 4-8. So it's just like every season's somewhat different.
That season too, yeah, we don't get into it, but if Xavier Hutchinson catches a couple gimmies, you know, you're pretty close to being 7-5, and
the ball bounced Iowa State's way for the most part last year. So this leads us into this game. I think this game is super tricky. At West Virginia, Morgantown. Learn something this week, C-Dub. How about this? Anthony Becht getting inducted into the Hall of Fame at halftime for West Virginia.
That's cool.
Isn't that
Classy
cool?
by West Virginia.
Yeah, way to go, West Virginia.
That's awesome. It's funny. I was at the Grand Ole Opry. I took my daughters on our way back from Georgia on Saturday night, and one of the singers had never heard of the woman. She sang the West Virginia song, "The Country Roads Take Me Home" to the place.
Yep.
And my daughter Cameron is a music junkie, and she's swaying her head. And I nudged her, and I was like, "You can't do that. Like we don't sing that song in these parts."
So
I'm gonna put West Virginia as a favorite in this game, though. West Virginia by 2.5.
It's right at 1 point. So that's gonna be
that's a win for me. I got that one.
Yeah, you did. Couple things on West Virginia. The song "Country Roads" is not about West Virginia, the state. It's about Western Virginia.
Oh, no shit.
Fact. Yeah.
So they completely
they co-opted the thing. They stole it. Yeah, old John, was it John Denver? It's John Denver.
He's full of shit, man.
He never visited West Virginia to write that. The song, he was writing the song in Western Virginia. But then West Virginia heard that, and then they took it, and now John Denver actually sang at the opening of Mountaineer Stadium, where Iowa State will play in October. He sang at the opener. That was the first act there. So I'm not telling West Virginia not to claim the song. Like, it's yours. But the fact remains, the song was written about West Virginia, Western Virginia.
That's crazy. I never knew that.
Yeah.
John Denver really is full of shit, though.
Yeah. John Denver's full of shit, man. Iowa State back home. Oh, get another bye week, though. We get another bye week. That's
all right. Bye week. Let's thank our friends at Whiffles Hybrids.
Yeah.
This is the Whiffles Hybrids Big 12 segment, right?
We'll get a bye week during harvest. This is great.
Oh, yeah. The old harvest bye week. And then I love that week because I always have the farmers tweet at us, and we'll get hundreds of tweets from farmers all over Iowa.
It's the best.
That are I love harvest in the state of Iowa. It's such a cool time. Whiffles Hybrids, plant your independence, baby. All right, where are we at next?
We're going to be up there for the Whiffles little grand opening type thing in
the 26th,
6th, 7th,
7th,
8th. I think it's the
8th.
It's a Wednesday. Whatever. We'll be there.
Wednesday of opening week. Wednesday of opening week.
Can't wait to see everybody there.
All the great Whiffles customers. Yeah, the grand opening. Can't wait for that.
Let's go.
We're doing our Wednesday show from there, but we'll do it live.
Yes, live show.
It'll be like we did with the Rocco Becht camp. It'll be a live show from the Whiffles up their names.
And indoors, thankfully, so I don't have to sweat as much as I did that day. Bye week, but back home. No, hold up. Take that back. I got ahead of myself. August 19th, before the bye week, UCF at home. UCF.
Trickier game than most people realize.
Hey, and everybody, don't call it. I'm telling this mainly to you, Chris. Don't call them Central Florida. They don't like it.
I'm literally doing it because they told me not to. Central Florida comes to Ames. And I'm really I'm going to buy stock in Central Florida right now.
Oh.
I don't know. I'm not saying they're like 10-2 or anything, but that's a tough place to play.
It is.
And it feels like Malzahn is running an SEC deal down there. Like just the way the transfer quarterback, they're going to be running that like weird offense. Like they're going to shortening games.
Yep.
I'm curious, like defensively, like where they're at, like physicality up front, that type of stuff. A lot of transfers, so you just don't really know if it clicks. I think they're going to play different enough of a style where they could give some teams some problems. Now, I also think, Brent, this is one of the reasons why if I'm John Haycock and Matt Campbell, where I'm talking about this four-man front because there's more games like this now. Iowa, Central Florida, Kansas State. There's a lot of Baylor previously. Now they're going more to a spread now, but like Utah will run right at you.
Oh, yeah.
There's a
Utah,
lot of these teams that
K-State.
are like this now.
Yep.
And I think Central Florida is potentially going to be on an extreme end of that. So this is a lower scoring, hopefully it's not. If it's in a track meet, Iowa State wins this one. But Iowa State's a 5.5-point favorite.
They have this at 8 points.
Oh, so I was close.
Pretty close. But again, more than a touchdown. So this is now another game Iowa State is favored by more than a touchdown, which is a good sign.
By the way, and I don't know how this matters because of all the transfers and everything. I don't think it should matter, but they have been shit away from home.
Oh, horrible. And that's a bear of a road trip. It really is.
So they've been awful away. They've been really good at home, terrible on the road. So that would, if they made this a spread at 5.5, like I said, I would play Iowa State.
Yeah, and yes, I think so. Here's quick on UCF. Not much of a non-conference at all. Early, they do go to Florida on October 5th. And interestingly, that Florida line with UCF is the same as the Iowa State line in UCF, both at 8.
They're power rating Iowa State,
Florida about the same. Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
And then home game with Cincinnati, home game with Colorado mixed in there. Road trip as well to TCU. We're going to know a lot about UCF by the time they come to Ames. There's no question. And I think I think 8's safe, but it could go. I honestly see this is one of those games where it could be 3, and it could be all the way up to 11.
This is the game where you want to have your kicker.
Yes.
I think that they're going to try and out physical, at least on offense. I don't know about their defense. Who knows?
This is a game where you kind of hope you get that mid-October wind chill coming in.
Mm-hmm.
Reminds me of when Baylor first came to Iowa State as a Big 12 school.
Give me a night game.
Yeah. Give me cold weather. So my favorite story from that Baylor game, this would have been 97. It was cold. It was November. It was during the day. But this is back when you'd have to call the time and temperature to get the they'd call number to get the time and temperature. Like you couldn't just check your phone. Or you'd have to drive by a bank to see the temperature. Well, Iowa State had the temperature on the scoreboard, and it said it's -34. I assume just to intimidate the Baylor Bears, and Iowa State won that game, only one of the year. So
weird. That's a weird game.
It's a weird game. Yeah,
trickier than most people will think.
I agree. Tricky spot. They have not been good away from Orlando, but I think that team is going to be better. So
I just don't know though. Like these teams, like they're so different, and they're a high input transfer team, right?
They've loaded up. Yes.
Yeah. So like I don't know. Like, do they have good chemistry? Are they getting their NIL checks on time? Like there's all these variables that I feel stupid saying like, well, they sucked away from home. Yes, last year. Well, it was their first year in the conference. There were they'd never made any of these road trips before. Granted, they're going to do that again for the most part this year. But like, you learn a lot from year 1 to year 2.
Totally.
And Malzahn's one of the few guys, like, I don't think Satterfield's going to work. He's going to get fired long term. Fritz, as much as I love him, he's never coached at this level. I don't know. A tough job, right? Like, you went from being probably the best mid-major job in college football to, it's like, what is Houston now? Like, they got some boosters that like him, but their stands aren't full. You're trying to compete now. Like, I don't know. Like, but I think Malzahn of all those guys, to me, is the one I would have the most faith in.
Yeah, I'm with you there. So then you get the bye week after UCF. I misspoke earlier. And then
Kalani Sitake will get fired too, by the way, won't he?
Yeah, he needs a big year. He can't go 3-9 or 4-8 again.
Yeah,
Texas Tech in Jack Trice Stadium, November 2nd.
I think people know my opinion on them. I think that they're pretty good. Going off of your trends, where I am under betting on Iowa State, so I'm gonna move my line up a little bit. If Iowa State was a 12-point favorite against Baylor, and what did you say they were against Central Florida? 8. So then 6-point favorite over Texas Tech.
9.
What?
I'm telling you, this surprised me when I looked at this. Another double digit, or not double digit.
What am I missing on Tech?
I'm not sure.
Am I overvaluing them?
No. Quarterback question. I mean, they're not as well known as I'd say as the upper 7 from a quarterback spot. And we know that they've recruited really well with McGuire. It hasn't really come to fruition yet, though. They've been kind of mired in that same area they've been for the last 6 years anyway. So we think they're going to get
nobody's won big there other than Mike Leach.
That's it. And so I get it. I mean, if that game's in Lubbock, it's a pick 'em. I mean, it's been hard for them.
God, 9
coming up to Ames too. Yeah, 9. All right, Arrowhead.
You'd get that number right now. I would.
You're taking the
Arrowhead, Kansas.
Arrowhead, Kansas on November 9th.
Be more Iowa State fans there than Kansas.
I think that's a very likely possibility.
Power ratings. I'm going to say give Kansas a 2-point favorite.
Right at it. You nailed it. Yep. Kansas by 2. That thing is going to be off the hook fun. By the way,
I think Iowa State will win that game.
Give the ticket some time. I think the Chiefs, because I looked into this week, they're still trying to figure out how they want to handle that from a ticket perspective. Whether it's Kansas, where they're going to sell their own. The widely available tickets are not out yet, so don't get paranoid and jump on a third-party site quite yet. I think those are going to come out in literally early September.
Heard anything about the camping situation
at
Arrowhead?
I have a little bit. I have on a selfish reason because we are about to, at some point, we're going to announce a really cool event right around.
Oh yeah, I know
Arrowhead.
About this.
Well, this is something different.
Different.
Something new. Again, to be determined. You'll hear more.
I wanted to take my camper down there.
I don't know yet. It's the Chiefs It's the Chiefs area. So I think
the Chiefs play the next day.
They do not.
Okay, I was gonna say then I'm not taking my camper if the Chiefs play the next day.
Yeah. So again, I don't want to overspeak on the camping situation. I don't know. I just know I got contacted by somebody that is very influential with the Chiefs VIP areas, and we're gonna get a VIP area for pregame in some capacity.
Sweet.
There you go. So more details to come on that. Okay. At Kansas, you said 2. I think that'll be a great game. I'm excited for it. We've had some bad luck in Arrowhead. I need to get rid of those demons.
Well, what we need to do is at this pregame thing that you need to have Grant Mahoney.
Oh, no.
And like some garlic or something like that.
Yes.
We need to do something and just take care of these demons with Mahoney right now. Maybe we can get Arnott on the phone for overthrowing Alexander Robinson.
And then get that line judge when Seneca was in. Bring him out of retirement, I assume.
Why don't we just get Seneca?
Let's just get Seneca.
We should do like this whole video piece where we are just going to slay those Arrowhead demons prior to that game.
And we know somebody who works for the Chiefs. We could probably actually figure that out.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, my.
We know people.
Okay, well, now you keep that quiet.
We know people.
So, Cincinnati following in Ames on November 16th.
So, Iowa State by 14?
On the number again, C-Dubs.
I'm having a good day.
Yeah, I would say that's... I think by the time that game rolls around again, the season will look... We'll know what the season looks like at that point. I think 10 to 14 is pretty realistic right now.
I hope Vite, gets a fair shake there.
Yeah,
Tyson Vite, Iowa State, one of the masterminds of the dime stack, one of my favorite people to come through Ames.
He's one of those where when he left, it wasn't a hey, you need to go. It was a very much a hey, go take a chance.
Everybody's like teared up because you just love the guy.
He's a good dude. But you're right. I think Satterfield's job is not 100% locked in at this point. Now he's only in year 2, but
I don't think they're going to turn it around.
I don't know if they're going to be very good this year. So back on the road, November 23rd.
Really weird hire when they hired him. I said it at the time. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was told that they were bound and determined they were going to get somebody with
Power 5 experience. Yeah, that's
and
exactly
that was
what happened.
it. Yeah. And
Not sure
God,
that'd
that
be
was
the
a
best move.
bad. I hope not, because I want Tyson to have a ton of success over there.
Well,
really,
I feel better.
really like him.
Selfishly, I feel better about Cincinnati right now because Vite's there. I think they're going to be better coached on that end for sure. On the road for Iowa State the next week at Utah, Salt Lake City, baby.
So Utah's favored by, again, like I'm undervaluing Iowa State in all of these in my head. So I would put Utah as like a 8-point favorite. So I'll move it down. Utah favored by 6.
Nailed it again. You're cheating.
I'm not cheating, I swear.
You are onto the odds maker. That's the thing, though, is these odds makers.
I'm not cheating, but the more information I get, I can make better decisions down the road.
That's right.
Like, that's all I'm doing is literally like I've found myself, I'm about 2 to 3 points undervaluing Iowa State in all these.
So 6, I think that's reasonable. I think Utah is the team to beat.
I think Utah should be a touchdown favorite in that game. That's a hard place to play. You're going west,
And when the 23rd rolls around, this game's going to look completely different. You're going to know. Now, will it end up 4 to 8 points? I'd say it's actually probably pretty likely. However, you'll have a better idea of where each team is. I still think, I like Cam Rising a lot. He hasn't played in a while, and so we'll see his health status. And they were good. They are super physical.
Well, if he doesn't get hurt, they could have been in the playoff.
They could have been in the playoff, right? They got a lot of guys coming back, and they are old and they're experienced. So I think Utah is going to be there, no question. I think Iowa State is too, though.
Are you at all interested in, especially in the Big Ten? I think it's more pronounced, but it'll definitely be a factor in the Big 12. Now we're just switching time zones so much now.
Yeah.
In college football, like just now these guys they're not traveling like. They're not going by horse and buggy here. Like,
no.
It's pretty luxurious, but still, like your clocks, and these are college students still.
Yep.
They're not going out 4 days before and like I just wonder. Like I was looking at Oregon's schedule, and I swear Utah's going to lose at Central Florida at the end of the year. Watch.
Well, so here, this is interesting to me. Because I just on Utah's end, because they have one really bad road trip, and it's the last game of the year on a Friday.
Yeah,
on Black Friday.
That's freaking brutal.
They got to go to Orlando.
What a terrible, terrible draw for them.
So interestingly, C-Dub, that Iowa State game is sandwiched for Utah between at Colorado and at UCF. Which again, that Colorado to Utah it's merely a puddle jumper, but. That trip from Utah to UCF is an absolute nightmare. Utah is right now favored by 5 in that game. I would, if I could find that, I would seriously throw $1 on old UCF because that's going to be an interesting game.
Oh yeah, pound Central Florida in that. I'm going to keep calling them that too.
But I would say, the one more game here, and that is K-State at home. To wrap up the year.
I'll just go off of the formula I've been using. I would put Kansas State. I think I would have this game at a pick'em. So give me Iowa State by 3.
This is a pick'em.
Okay.
Dead up.
Well,
Dead
so
you would have been right.
I would have been right. Overthought it.
So if you're scoring at home, and I know you are, or in your car, or wherever you're listening, Iowa State is touchdown or more favorites against North Dakota, Arkansas State, Houston, Baylor, UCF, Texas Tech, Cincinnati. And then toss-up games. 2 points Iowa, 1 point at West Virginia, 2 points Kansas and Arrowhead, K-State pick'em. And then the one game you're a 6 point more underdog. There's only one, and that's Utah. So if you would do this exercise a year ago, Iowa State was double-digit underdogs, I believe, in 5 games entering the season. Now it's 0. There are 0 double-digit underdogs. I think that is what really struck to me is like, holy cow, you're going to be in a lot of close games. There's no question. But Iowa State is more than double-digit favorites in 6 of them, double-digit underdogs in 0. That's a big change.
Well, It's surely going to be a fun year. There's a lot of pressure, I think, on those Iowa and West Virginia games, right? Like, I mean, won't those two games kind of tell the story of the season at the end of the? Not that I mean, hell, if you went,
the Iowa game doesn't matter to make the playoff.
But if you go 10-2 and you lose those two games, everybody's still happy. But I'm just saying, like, I think, right or wrong, a lot of people in the fan base, you're just kind of going to Utah and Kansas State, like with the Big 12 thing, right? Like, I don't know. Those are huge, man.
You're right. The more I look at the schedule, the most important game in a lot of context, at least the biggest toss-up game, is that West Virginia game on October 12th. Yeah. Because if you do the schedule, and the Iowa game is like, okay, win or lose that Iowa game,
that's all about like momentum and just talk.
And it matters in state. I'm a big proponent of that game. Does matter for a lot of reasons. As far as Big 12 standings, though, it doesn't. So let's just remove that from that. I understand the importance of the Iowa game. I will always believe it's a huge game. But you roll down that schedule now, and it's at Houston. Okay, we're just going to play touchdown or more favorites. At Houston, 1-0. Baylor at home, 2-0. If you beat at West Virginia, okay, we're going to give that to Iowa State, even though you're going to be a small underdog, 3-0. Then it's UCF and Texas Tech at home to get to 5-0. Kansas and Arrowhead to get to 6-0. And then at that point, C-Dub, you are staring at Cincinnati at home, Utah K-State, and it's like everything's right there. And so when I was looking at this morning, I was like, oh my gosh, October and November could be electric because of the change of the playoff system, that every game's going to matter. And Iowa State, if it holds serve-ish, is going to be in that conversation and right in the middle of it in the Big 12, which means you're involved with everything then.
And then you add top 10 football or men's, women's basketball and wrestling programs at the same time.
It's going to be fever pitch in Ames. I really believe that.
Fun show.
Yeah. Football heavy.
Thanks for digging those up. That was fun. That was a good idea because I've been thinking about that a lot, and I'm really I think Iowa State's got a good squad. I think they're 9-3, 10-2 ish. I really do, but I didn't have them. Vegas ranks them higher than I had them in my head in many of these, as far as just the numbers go, which that's good. I like that. That's a good thing because
But in the same light, C-Dub, Vegas also has Iowa State losing 3 games based on this schedule, and then K-State is a toss-up. So,
and I truly think too that stretch of West Virginia, Central Florida, Tech, that's tricky.
Yep,
it is. That I almost think you could just put a circle around like that little stretch right there, and like if you lose any of those, like you're fine, but you better not lose 2.
Great point. Yep, totally agree. That stretch is like that little window. Again, the Iowa game is what it is. I think you're going to start out okay, Houston, Baylor, and then West Virginia, UCF, Tech, Kansas. That will dictate.
Yeah, Kansas is the 4th one.
Are we playing for something beyond, or are we just trying to make a bowl game?
If you go 2-2 there, you're like, man, hope we can get to the Alamo Bowl. If you go 3-1 or better,
you're trying to get to Arlington at that point.
Yeah. All right.
Buckle up, everybody. Buckle up.
Good show. Thanks to Blum. He did most of the legwork for today's show. Appreciate it, brother. Thanks to our presenting sponsor, Mechdyne. Remember to join us out in LeClaire on Friday. We will just plaster our social media feeds with this information all week long. It's always one of our favorite events of the year.
Comes with a free drink, right? Free drink, I believe
so, yes. Yeah. Ryan is so passionate about Iowa State. He doesn't even think about, we're in Eastern Iowa. He is cloned to the bone. We are in the Wild Rose Casino Studios, Williams and Blum. Wednesday, we'll be back on Wednesday. Woody and Mahoney will have Kicking It as well as they start to ramp up for the year. For Brent Blum, my name is Chris Williams. Have a great week, everybody.